and so that people will know that you may not chop down the tree in the HOA. As a matter of fact, what I might also recommend is that immediately after this session, since you are now filled with knowledge, you call for a change in the bylaws. That the trees cannot be chopped down. Cantor.
You move the pool to the shul. So the shul has a pool.
Okay.
That would be cool.
Okay, yes, that would be an excellent idea. And yeah, I can certainly see the congregants. This is conservative
Don't
shul.
they call that a mikvah?
No. So I think Kenneth Brody's onto something. That considering we're a conservative shul, so I can see right after Shabbat services, all the congregants over the age of 65 change into their bathing suits and go swimming. What a sight that would be. That would be fantastic. That would, Greg, that would bring in members or not?
Like crazy.
Not quite sure. Okay.
A wet and wild kiddish.
Oh, now he's getting there. Okay, so let's get back to some
You're
the
getting on the
normality.
edge there.
So,
On the edge.
all right, let me dive right back into the conversation. So,
We're going off the rails here.
Okay, so going back, is that rule ridiculous, or does it make sense that we're not supposed to chop down trees for aesthetic purposes? Does that make sense, or is that one of those archaic Jewish rules that should be thrown out as being ridiculous and no more and it's not adoptable to modern times? Take away Palm Beach County's Meshuggahs.
Yep.
What do you think?
I think it's one of those rules that gives you a way to think about, the way to think about when you're making decisions like that, not necessarily a hard and fast rule. It's sort of, it tells you should always, when you're considering things like that, you should always act in favor of preserving the trees and preserving something that's going to produce fruit rather than aesthetics. There may be situations where you say, well, we need to favor aesthetics, but in general, we're going to say this teaches you a lesson about how to approach nature and how to approach things like that.
Oh, so what you're saying, Greg, it's one of those silly rules that has deeper meanings, but once you plant your roots in this particular idea, you can grow taller and more and create more opportunities for the earth.
Something like that, yeah. So yeah. I mean, yeah, there are lots of things in the Torah that are not, you're not taking them specifically literally, but they teach you a lesson about how to approach more broader subjects.
Exactly. So let's try this on for size. Judaism says that the Torah, a tree is like a person. A tree is like a person. Why is a tree like a person?
It breeds.
Keeps growing.
It breeds,
Alive,
keeps growing.
living.
Okay. All right. Keeps growing.
Got
Now,
root.
okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. So in what direction does the tree grow?
Toward
Up,
heaven.
up towards the
Toward
heaven.
Hashem.
Up and out.
Almost. It only grows up.
I said up
And
and
out.
out.
Grows down.
And down.
Ah, the
Yeah.
roots. The roots.
Right, the root.
So what does this have to do with humans? The Jews, the way they think, they say, wait a minute, this is a great concept. The more we adhere to our Jewish and spiritual roots, the more we adhere to the roots of our heredity, our tradition, our DNA, the taller and more successful and stronger we grow. And that's how they try to make a relationship between a tree and a human. Now, what do you think of that analogy? Is that one of those that are silly, or does that begin to make some sense?
It's good.
Sense.
Yeah. So what do you think? Should Jews become more spiritual? Now the rubber meets the road, because now we all say it makes sense. Should a Jew become more spiritual and then therefore grow taller and stronger? Watch this, like the cedars in Lebanon. And I don't know if you recognize those words, like the cedars in Lebanon, which comes from our Friday night services in the English translation. And what do you think about that? Because that's exactly what that particular psalm refers to. But should we become more spiritual, and then we see what happens to us when we grow, as we grow? Or are those two totally disconnected and have nothing to do with each other?
No, I think they're
Oh.
connected. I mean, it's all part of God's creation. The fact that the trees grow, go through a cycle,
Right.
bring fruit.
Mhm.
It's all part of God's creation, and we should celebrate that.
Okay. All right, Greg, I don't know if you heard the question, but I think this is one that you would particularly be interested in. So what we're doing is creating an analogy between the tree's roots and growing tall. And we said it's like a human. And Judaism says the deeper your spiritual roots, meaning returning to Judaism, and the Torah and prayer and the holidays and the whole 9 yards, and the mitzvot, the taller you grow and stronger as an individual. Is that a good analogy on your part?
Yeah, I like that metaphor.
Yeah.
That's good. I think
So
that's
then,
very good.
therefore, if we agree with it, should we all become more spiritual?
I think we should build our roots. Yes, I think the stronger the roots, the yes.
Ah,
I mean,
okay.
more
All right.
spiritual, or yes, yeah. I think that's yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking
By that
about
language.
more spiritual or more religious or observant? There's two different things.
Yes, yes, and yes. So you can become religious. In other words, and I'm sure that the cantor will weigh in on this. You can go, a person can go to shul, right? And daven, the Hebrew, and not know a thing what they said. That's not spiritual. A person can go to shul and then daven, know the words that they're saying, feel it with the kavanah, with the feeling in the heart, okay? And that is what creates a spiritual moment. So for another way to kind of explain that, question: when you buy something and it has directions, and I realize, and here's a really interesting thing, I realize most Jews, when they buy something, do we read the directions?
No.
No, why not? Why
we
not?
know better.
We know
We're
better.
smarter
We
than the
know-
person.
You know
who
how
wrote
to do it
the
without directions.
Right.
Yeah, of
You're so smart. Jews are so smart. They don't
Exactly
need
right.
directions.
It was some goyim who wrote the directions. They don't
There you
know.
go. They don't know what they're talking about.
Some
There's no-
Chinese guy.
right?
A Chinese
yeah.
guy, not just a guy.
I mean, gosh forbid, we should read directions. But watch this analogy. See if you agree with it or not. Do we read directions like we read prayers?
No.
Sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. Don't we? We skim over it, right? I don't know what. Again, no offense to any chazan, right? But we hear the chazan sing. We repeat the words. We don't know what we're saying. It's the same thing. We don't look at directions. Wow, look at now. What would happen to us if we actually read the directions? I'm a little off topic, but I'll get back to it. What would happen if we originally read directions when we buy something? What would happen to us?
We'd have no extra pots,
We'd have no extra what?
Or
pieces.
Oh, parts. I'm sorry. We'd have no extra.
Sorry for the
parts.
accent.
Yeah, I missed that one. All right.
Why have a pot? What's a pot?
What would else happen if we actually read directions? What would happen?
Probably take less time to install.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's one benefit. What else? What
We
would
know
happen?
We would know we were doing it correctly.
We know we
according
do it
to-
correctly. Great. What would happen to our stress?
less.
Of course. All right. Anybody? I'm looking for a counter argument to tell me I'm crazy, but it looks like we're not getting one. So if we adopted this, and that's, I'm going to get back to the roots and the spirituality. If we adopted all that thought process about, wow, maybe we should read instructions, comma, maybe we should know what we pray. Then when we know what we pray, what happens? We become more understanding. We get the benefits of the prayer. God gets the benefits of the prayer. We grow stronger spiritually. And that's it. Now, is that theory or fact?
Fact.
Yeah, that's fact.
Fact?
Oh, I was waiting for that, Greg. I was counting. I said, when's he going to come back?
It's a fact that if you
I've
read
had
the,
your-
if
I've
you
had
read
your
the prayers,
Greg, I've had your kids in HIP. I now know where they get it from. Okay.
I'm sorry. It's a fact that if you read the prayers, then you become more spiritual and can grow. Really? I mean,
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the right word to use. It's understanding the prayer in the vernacular. If you read it in Hebrew and understand it, the translation in English, you feel more connected to the prayer rather than just reading the Hebrew, which would mean nothing to you unless you took time to translate it. It's just
That-
reading words.
that I can agree with as a fact. Yes.
I'm
If
not
you read
saying
the
that's
English, you'll understand it better and feel
So-
more connected to it. Sure.
So,
Yes.
and the Hebrew, if we take the
Or if
time
we
to learn
understood
it.
the Hebrew. Right.
Yeah. So watch this, how I relate this to Tu Beshvat. Ready for this? It's like you can't see the forest for the trees, right? So you got the big forest, right? Which is the big Siddur. And what are the trees? The words. And if you don't understand the words, why bother going into the forest? So, but there's more facts, which I'll introduce in a moment. But is that factual? The more spiritual you are, the more successful you are, or is that above a myself?
The more successful you are, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
How are we defining success? I guess is the question.
Great question. So success is doing what you want, when you want, how often you want, with whom you want, etc. That's my definition. Worked for me. That's true. If you can do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, how often you want, okay, that's success.
But
Well, that
what
would
does
be
that have to do
ultimately.
with being spiritual?
I'm sorry, one more time, Carolyn.
What does that have to do with being spiritual?
Oh, I'll tell you in a moment. It's the facts will come out. I might have done this a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to do it again. But but first, I want to get your thoughts.
I think
Okay,
you're
here we
talking
go.
about ultimate freedom. I don't know about success, but you're talking about ultimate unfettered freedom.
Mm-mm.
When you want, who you want, when with you want. That to me is unfettered freedom. I mean, I don't know about success unless you aspire to that as being your goal.
So here we go. So let's see if you buy into this. Studies have concluded. And Greg, I have to tell you, I'm flashing back to your kids when I do this. Studies have
They're here
concluded.
somewhere.
Are they back? I'd love to see them. Studies have concluded, really, that the more orthodox a person is in the Jewish religion, and you've heard me do this before, it's factual. The greater wealth they have, and the lower stress they have, and the happier lives they have. And when you ask them why, they say because they are rooted in Judaism. And Judaism taught them all of that. That's a fact. In one class, I'll present them. I think in the very first or second class, Sheila Brody, I brought this up. She said, "I don't send me documents." I did. So, but now I've accumulated more. So that's factual. So it goes back to what we're now, Greg, you're not challenging me.
Oh, you'll have to send me the documents. I don't buy that at all. You already saying you were going to get the documents. So I was just going to wait because.
All right. So when you get the documents and you see that they're from extremely credible sources, okay, and they've been proven and replicated, okay, what will your acceptance level be then?
I'll have to see. I mean, I'm open to seeing documents and being proven. I have no problem with that. But I've seen again, some of the stuff you talked about is very subjective. So it's kind of hard to put into a document and prove that there are people who are happier or more fulfilled or whatever. I definitely I would agree. I think that very Orthodox people tend not to question things as much, which ends up meaning that they're much happier and more fulfilled and more satisfied with the answers that they're getting because they don't question. Whether that makes them more successful or not is, a different definition than what I would have.
All right. Thank you. Carolyn, you also questioned me on that. So what's your reaction now?
I don't think success really has to do that much with being spiritual.
Okay.
But that's me.
All right, so if not next class, because I've got something set up already for
But
next class.
But I do have a question for Greg, because he
yeah.
said that, let me just think what it was now, that,
I'm gonna turn off my video because I'm moving into another room, but I'm still here. Go ahead.
that Orthodox Jews do not question that much. And I thought that the whole purpose of Judaism is questioning.
Yeah, I think, to me, at least, my experience with the more Orthodox Judaism you get, I mean, I guess there's a lot of, there's questioning within a very narrow parameters. You know, if the Bible tells you something, if the Torah says something, then it's true, and there's no, and sometimes the, you know, and especially as you move further up the ladder, at least in my experience, you know, I can certainly be proven wrong, but the further up the ladder you get into Orthodoxy, the less challenging of that type of stuff that you're willing to do.
But
Coming
don't,
from, coming from
don't-
an area that had a very Orthodox community and involved with politics in the area, in the really, really Orthodox community, the Rebbe says this is the way it is, and you can't question it. So I think that the higher up you go into the more Orthodox communities, the less questioning there is, and the more just rote following there is.
So
I don't agree. I don't agree. I think they study more to find out what the real answer is.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask a favor. I allowed this to go a little bit off topic. My fault. We will have an hour on this before the end of this semester. No. It's my fault, Mo. It's my fault. It's my fault. So let's kind of get back. Okay. So, and that was my fault. So the Jewish National Fund, which is the big thing for trees. By the way, how many of us own trees in Israel?
Yeah, I'm sure.
All of us, right?
Yeah. Ever seen them? You know where they are?
No.
When you've gone on a mission to Israel, have you searched for your tree? I'm sorry, Cantor, you know where yours is?
Well, they tell you where your tree is.
Oh.
Or the certificate says it somewhere, but
Has anybody ever gone? Has anybody ever? Okay, thank you, Cantor. Has anybody ever gone to visit their tree and say, "This is mine"? No. All right, but it's there. All right. So the whole thing started in 1901. On Tisha B'Av, by the way, I believe is when they started this. And Israel has planted up to this point more than 240 million trees. And Israel is the only country in the world, that's a fact, that has every year more trees than the year before. Every other country has less trees. And that continues to go on year after year after year, because on Tu Beshvat, believe it or not, how many trees do you think are planted on Tu Beshvat? Anybody want to take a guess? Just this one day.
Million.
All right, we have an opening bid for $1 million. I'm looking for 1,300,000. Anybody want to go for 1,300,000? Anybody want to say 1,300,000?
1,800,000.
1,800,000. Anyone want to go for 2 million trees being planted every day every year on Tu Beshvat? Anybody want to go for 2 million? I'm looking for somebody to go for 2 million. 1.8 is not the right number. I'm looking for somebody for 2 million. Please, I need to take a breath. 2 million. Ruth has got it. Yes, 2 million. Thank you, Ruth.
I think Israel's landmass was large enough to have 240 million trees.
Yeah, 2 million trees a year is what was built. And in 1949, Jerusalem was encircled by a forest of defenders in memory of those who fell in the War of Independence. And Israel, believe it or not, is one of the world's leaders. This is going to be shocking. They do have some environmental problems, but Israel is one of the world's leaders in the whole issue of environmental protection. Did you know that? Forget about what we talked about earlier about the soil and conservation and whatever. So listen to this, Mo. You say you want to share with the knowledge that you have.
Well, I just know my a neighbor who grew up across the street from me in Massachusetts is an environmental engineer over there. So They work very diligently to recycle all the water that they have and use it to the best of their ability.
All right, so here we go. The Israeli Knesset approved the milestone Clear Air Act in July 2008. Can you imagine the Knesset actually agreeing on something without trying to elect a new president every time an idea, prime minister every time an idea comes out? It's mind-boggling. All right, which was billed as the most comprehensive piece of environmental legislation ever passed in the country. Here we go. It established regulations for the treatment of different air pollution factors. It put forth a national program for the reduction of pollutants emissions such as sulfur oxide, nitrogen oxide, and a whole bunch of other stuff which is hard to pronounce. They required high emission industrial and manufacturing plants to obtain emission permits and track their emissions output. Oh, wait a minute. I normally don't get political, so I'm not going to now. But wow, they've got all these environmental controls. And what's happening to their economy?
Booming.
Booming.
It's booming.
It's booming. Wow. How can you possibly have environmental controls and have a booming economy at the same time? Mind-boggling. I'm not talking politics. Established economic incentives for reaching low emission goals and expanding the power of Ministry of Environmental Protection. So what does that mean? These are nice laws. What does it result in? In 10 years, they cut the gas emissions by over 50%. And Tu Beshvat, although not necessarily celebrated a lot here in this country, although Temple Torah Meda is going to have a virtual Tu Beshvat Seder, and we certainly invite everybody to partake. And I'm not going to get into what the structure of the Seder is because I don't want to do a spoiler alert for those that are going to attend. So we're going to leave that out of it. But the Israeli Union for Environmental Defense has succeeded in obtaining court orders to stop noise abatement. Do you know why I left where I was sitting and went here? I was making too much noise. I didn't want to get fined by my neighbors for noise abatement. It's just a marvelous thing. Sewer repairs. Many are old and in poor repair, and even were designed to cope with a population that's increasing. They've got some problems, but they're working on it. But here's what else they're doing. Rather more than 95% of Israel's solid waste is buried in landfills. It is burned in open air pits or left rot in the garbage dumped throughout the country. That's a problem. They have an awful problem when it comes to that and some other issues that they are working on. But they celebrate Tu Beshvat. This means a big deal to them in Israel. So I did a high school class last night at the HIP when we talked about Tu Beshvat, and I started out asking the kids, do you know what I name all the Jewish holidays? All right, fine. What do you think the first one they named was?
Passover.
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Yep, number one on everybody's list. Second one was Passover, Rosh Hashanah. Then you had Yom Kippur. And then in spite of 9 years of hard Jewish education, they were hard pressed to come up with any others. And then I finally introduced, and that's not a knock on the school system, that's just in any school system, okay? So, and just as a proof, if you ask the average Jew what the 10 Commandments are, not even in order, most of us don't know. So, even though we've had the education, but moving forward. So I talked about Tu Beshvat, and I said, trees, are we making a big deal out of it? They said, yes. By the time we got done with it, they loved the holiday because what it does is, it's so symbolic. It teaches us to focus on nature. It teaches us to focus on the environment. But here's the important thing. In the world today, there are 10 man-made environmental plagues. 10 man-made environmental plagues. Anybody know what they are?
Carbon monoxide.
Okay, that falls into a category, but go ahead, continue. Carbon monoxide, sure, which is probably air pollution, but go ahead.
Hmm.
What else? That's it?
Smog, smog, smog.
Smog,
Smog.
that's air pollution. All right, what
What
else?
about water pollution, the oceans?
Good, that's two. Good. We got air pollution, we got water pollution. Great. We have Hanukkah, we
Raising
have
the temperature.
Passover. What's next?
Raising the temperature.
Oh, you mean global warming?
Yes.
Okay, that's three. Global warming. If now, I don't know where we all stand on it. I'm not going to ask politically. There are some saying that's all part of the cycle. Let's all say it's man-made. For the purpose of this discussion, I'm going to suggest it's man-made, but I'm not trying to influence anybody. All right, let's move on. What else?
Desecration of forests.
Ah, beautiful. Deforestation of forests. Yes, you betcha. What else? Good. Good.
Junk in the ocean.
I'm sorry, one more time.
Junk in the ocean. Pollution.
Yeah, junk in the ocean. Yeah, we've done all of that. Sure. What else?
Glaciers melting.
That's part of global warming.
Okay.
Mhm.
Excessive agricultural land use.
Excessive. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll buy that. And that's why, by the way, thank you for that. That's why old Judaism said, wait a minute, folks, let's not go crazy with all this, with all the goats and the grass. You're right. Good. What else?
Driving
Oh,
animals to
building.
extinction.
Yeah. Getting rid of animal habitats where they naturally live. Absolutely. Good. What else?
Oil
Overbuilding cities and
I'm sorry. One more time, Carolyn.
overbuilding cities and taking away agricultural land.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
around the corner
All right.
here.
All right. Let's say toxic waste.
Yeah.
All right.
Rising
Sorry,
ocean
Cantor.
levels.
I'm sorry, Ruth, and then Cantor. Go ahead.
Not allowing the land to have a Shabbat.
Yeah.
The Jubilee year. Jubilee.
Yeah, all right. And by the way, thank you for that, Cantor. And Greg, look this up. Look it up with your kids, okay? I don't make this stuff up. I know sometimes there are facts that we don't want to accept because it goes counter to our beliefs. And we all do that. It's just not you, okay? So, because sometimes facts go beyond counter our belief. But they have proven, I'm not talking me, I'm talking agricultural schools have proven that when you give the land a rest, just like the Jews said you should, the land produces more fruit or more plants or more vegetables, whatever it was supposed to do. And they teach that in agricultural schools. What they don't teach, because I don't know if this happens, it's supposed to, that when you give the land a rest the year before it doubles its crop. I don't know if anybody, I can't say for a fact that that occurs, but Cantor, am I correct in saying that that's what's supposed to occur? And there are Jewish kibbutzim and farms in Israel that currently do give the land a rest at the time period that the Torah says to. But I haven't seen proof that it doubles its output the year before. That would be miraculous. But all right, so
Rising ocean levels.
yeah,
Rising
that's
ocean levels?
that's global warming. Oh, how
Okay.
about the ozone levels? Remember the ozone, folks? Those aerosol spray cans that we use, and what happened? It destroyed the ozone level. That's a big one. So there we got it. Now, Tisha B'Av, Tu Beshvat is supposed to remind us of all of these things and do what? Have a call to action. Now, isn't it interesting? How can you have a call to action if you don't know what the problems are? And most of us, including me, probably can only list the top 2 or 3, just like the kids couldn't list more than 3 holidays. So, and most Jews for that matter too. I don't want to isolate it on my kids. So with that being said, what should we do about it? Or what should be done? Let me rephrase. What should be done about all the 10 plagues that we do? And remember, we're Jewish. And what does Judaism say we should do with the earth?
Treat it kindly.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? That's our obligation. What was it? What was the reason that Adam, who was not Jewish, what was the reason that Adam was put on the face of the earth in the first place?
To take care of
Take
it.
care of the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, take care of the Garden of Eden, right? And Tikkun Olam, repair the world. So I hate to tell everybody this, but hate to break the news to you, but everyone on this call this evening is responsible for Tikkun Olam and for solving these 10 pollutants that are violating Jewish law, because that's what's happening to the trees and the whole 9 yards. So the rubber meets the road. What should be done? Anybody?
Contact your local politician and ask them to pass laws instituting some of these things that need to be done to correct these problems.
Okay, contact your local politician or hire, or not hire, elect a politician who you know in advance will do that.
I didn't
Okay,
want to
good.
say, that's too political. I didn't want to say that.
Okay.
You're right the first time, hire.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
right.
about pick a favorite category that's like clean water and donate to it?
Okay, donate to clean water. Okay, all right. All right, good. We're getting started. Good, what else? You see, therein lies the problem.
That's it.
Because except for Mo, okay, I can almost guarantee, and maybe Ruth, everybody was focused on what should somebody else do. It
Well, we
ain't my problem.
donate to
Go ahead,
JNF.
Sheila.
We should donate to JNF.
Yeah,
Yeah, buy more trees in
Plant the tree in
JNF. There you
Israel,
go.
right?
yeah.
There's a Jewish organization called Hazon, which is a sort of a back to the land agricultural sort of movement, a Jewish movement. And I donate to them, and they've got, agricultural things set up, even in the United States, to
Mhm.
utilize the land in a good way, recycle things, self-sustaining farming, HAZON.
Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
Thank you. So every one of us has a responsibility. Now, I will tell you that I have failed. I failed. I don't mind admitting that. When I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, we had a voluntary recycling program. Take your garbage, separate it from the recyclables into the regular trash, and put them out separately. In the 24 and a half years that I lived there, how often did I do that?
3 times.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe 3. Okay. I plead guilty. I caused the problem. I caused the problem. And it depends upon when we drive a car. Is it a gas guzzler? I caused the problem. How many of us drive? You don't have to raise your hand. How many of us drive a Prius because we know it helps the environment? How many of us look at a Prius, including me, and say, I want nothing to do with it? It's our fault.
I drive a Volt. It's even better than a Prius. It's all electric.
I'm sorry, you have what, Greg?
I have a Volt, so I'm all on electric. I got no gas.
So yeah, so here's, this was really amazing. So last night we were talking about electric cars, and one of the students said that we should all go out and buy Teslas. Okay, that's fine. It's a great contribution to the discussion. And then there were 2 really bright kids, I'm not going to mention their name, who know so much about science. I'm not being sarcastic, I'm being realistic. And they debunked the fact that a Tesla or a Volt will in fact help the population. And man, did air pollution. And man, did they put a one heck of an off-the-cuff argument together. I can't even repeat what they said, but it was brilliant. I think it was very convincing. Let me rephrase it. All right. So we're supposed to do that. That's what Tu Beshvat is intended to teach us. What do you think? Nancy,
Sure.
Martin, what do you think about all this?
We haven't learned that lesson.
Well, yeah, but actually we have, but I'll tell you why in a moment. Ruth, did you want to say something?
I say we started from the time I moved to Florida. The recycling program was in effect, and I started doing that from day one.
Yep. Yeah. Now I'm forced to do it. I mean, now I'm absolutely forced to do it, so I do it, and that's fine. and I got the yellow pail and the blue pail, and Arthur will appreciate this. I can't put the garbage out until 5 o'clock for those that live in an HOA, and I got to take it off the streets by 5. And if not, the compliance officer comes by and gives me a fine, which I think is the right thing to do, by the way. I support that. All right. So guess what? Air pollution is responsible for premature deaths in babies. As another factoid, if you take a look at countries that have a high level of death, premature death in babies, one of the causes, not exclusively, is air pollution. And what they discovered was, I don't know if you guys know this, but Israel has one of the lowest rates of premature baby deaths than any country in the world. Now, there are lots of reasons because of that makes it happen. One of them happens to be none other than reduction in air pollution. So when you say, Martin, we haven't learned our lesson, yeah, most people have not drawn that connection or have not really been educated to that connection. And if they would, who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So there's a couple of songs, and I'm not going to sing them because the minute I start one of these, I can't get the silly song out of my head. And I'll run around singing it for years, and I can't take it anymore. I've been doing it for a week. And maybe the Chazan, if he knows it, if he does it, I don't want to put him on the spot. Tu Beshvat Higiach Chag Ha'ilanot. I sing that thing. I can't get it out of my head. It's the worst thing. I love the song. If you want to, you don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but it's a great song.
Tu Beshvat Higiach Chag Ha'ilanot. Tu Beshvat Higiach Chag Ha'ilanot. L'shkedi Porachat. Shemesh Porachat.
That's okay. That's okay.
The almond is growing, a glowing sun is growing. The birds sing out in joyous glee from every roof and every tree. Tu Beshvat is here, the new year of the trees. Tu Beshvat Higiach Chag Ha'ilanot.
Yep. Thank you very much, Cantor. Thank you very much. And when I love that song, but now it'll take me 3 days to get out of my head. It's one of those that stay there. It's just crazy. All right, let's take it a little bit step further. How many of you have ever had the pleasure of being in the state of Nebraska?
Where?
Huh?
Why?
Hey, Martin, of all the years I've ever asked that question, you are the first person to ever say that.
Why?
Anyway, guess what? There's a city, non-Jewish, in the state of Nebraska that adopted their version of Tu Beshvat. And as a matter of fact, it has spread throughout the country. And what is that American holiday that few people know?
Arbor Day.
Arbor Day.
Arbor Day. Oh my gosh, I wonder where they got that idea from. Right from us. And by the way, for those that don't know, what is Arbor Day? It's the celebration of trees. Oh, yes. And let's go back to the very famous non-Jewish poet by the name of Joyce. Anybody know the last name?
Kilmer.
There you go, Joyce Kilmer. And I don't know if you learned this in school. There's a beautiful poem. And what is it about? Trees. Anybody know that poem? I can put it on the screen if I
Think
look it
that
up.
I shall never see.
Yeah. Now I tried.
That lift its arms to pray and something.
Whoa! Wait, hold.
Looks
hold
at
on
God
second,
all
Greg.
day or something like that.
Wait a minute. Hold on 1 second, Greg. Whoa! You mean to tell me that a non-Jewish person took a Jewish concept about trees growing tall, with the roots being spiritual, and threw into it pray and put that all together in a poem, and was not Jewish? Oh my gosh! I wonder where they got that idea from.
You sure she wasn't Jewish? She had to be Jewish.
Huh?
Are you sure she wasn't Jewish?
Yeah, I looked it up all day. I looked it up. I tried to find some. As a matter of fact, I was almost tempted to pay for a 23andMe if there is such a thing for her or answer. I couldn't find it, but no, I can't make that connection. Other than the fact, like most other people, she took a Jewish concept and adopted it. Oh, how many of us were around in the 60s?
Barely, but yeah.
Okay, listen, the fact that it took you so long to remember is a good indicator that you were around in the 60s. Okay?
Had a good year and a half in there, but
I'm just saying. All right, so what international holiday started in the 60s?
Earth Day.
Earth Day.
You betcha, Earth Day. I wonder where they got that idea from. Anybody want to help me here?
Tu Beshvat.
Tu Beshvat Day.
Yeah, Tu Beshvat Day, yes. And what does the world celebrate and honor that one day where the entire world is unified and all wars stop?
Environment.
The environment. And by the way, what do they do the next day?
Pollute.
They forget the whole thing. And all they did the previous night was party and remember their time at Woodstock. No offense to anybody that was at Woodstock. I wasn't. Ruth?
I have a Tu Beshvat story from years ago in nursery school.
Go
I
for
taught
it.
nursery school in Spring Valley, and we were talking about Tu Beshvat, and we were calling it the New Year of the Trees. And we said there's a country far away where almost everybody is Jewish and is celebrated. Does anybody know the name of that place? And some little boy stood up and he said, Miami Beach. That was my Tu Beshvat lesson in nursery school.
Very good. Very good. Very
Tu
good.
Beshvat.
All right. So here we have taken a relatively unknown holiday and try to build it up into something that, you know what, that's important. In spite of the fact that it's got no historical background and no spiritual background. So when you think of Tu B'Shvat after this evening, and if you're at the Seder tomorrow, what is it that what's your takeaway from tonight?
We should be more aware of it
Because
it's good for the world.
good for the world. Good.
Connect more to nature. Make your life more part of nature, and nature part of your life.
Yeah, and I will compliment Mo because he does that every time that we have a session, because take a look at his virtual background.
Trees.
There is a true dedicated Tu B'Shvat honoree.
He's got
trees,
trees,
and grass,
the
and the
trees.
water.
Mo,
He's doing it all. He's doing it all.
That's the Red Sea behind Mo.
Yeah. There's an alligator in there.
Okay. Mo, what do you think now about the holiday of Tu B'Shvat?
Well, I'm going to be more aware of the 10 plagues that we put in the earth now.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to call my senator and representatives.
Whoa. Okay. Wow.
Tell them to work
Okay.
harder.
All right. Good. Chazan and Sheila, what do you guys think?
Well, I think there's a very big push on the environment, and I don't want to get political either, but good things are going to happen in this country about the environment, and we're hoping and praying that we can, save the earth, so to speak.
Absolutely. It is our, we put it in this mess, and we're the ones that got to get out of it. Chazan, what do you think?
Well, being a chazan and a teacher, especially with young kids, teaching music to them, definitely on Tu B'Shvat was a wonderful holiday. And having a Tu B'Shvat Seder, the kids really enjoy that with the different fruits and going through that. And I incorporated about 10 songs which encompass Judaism that have something to do with Tu B'Shvat. And favorite songs, something like even Zum Gali Gali, with the pioneers going out singing Zum Gali Gali when they went out. And between each song, I would tell a story about each song, and the kids would pick up Zum Gali Gali, that becomes their favorite song when they're 4 or 5 years old. So it's a great teaching holiday, and you can get a lot across. It's pleasant. There's no bad things happening necessarily. And I think this is a great time of the year. And I'm trying to think of why the 15th, obviously a full moon, they had a full day and light afterwards. I'm trying to think of why they chose Shvat. Maybe the month needed a holiday or something.
Yeah, and it goes back to the debate, as always, between Hillel and Shammai. And Shammai said, let's do it on the 1st of the month. And Hillel said, let's do it on the 15th of the month. And the reason Hillel, who won again, the reason why Hillel said the 15th of the month, because on the calendar, it falls supposedly right in the middle of winter and spring. So it marks the half point between winter and spring. And what the thought process is that it gives hope. You know, when there's darkness in the winter and it's snowing in other parts of the world, of course, not Florida, you always look for some type of hope. And that's what does it. And of course, one thing I neglected to mention, in Israel, Tu B'Shvat is considered the beginning of spring, even though on the calendar it isn't. And in addition to that, it's when the almonds begin to blossom, just like the song Tu B'Shvat Higia, Chag HaYilanot. So it's for those reasons why the 15th came out.
Okay, I had a feeling that it was that type of the year.
Yeah.
And even talking about the olive trees are growing. You know, the olive trees. Eight says 18. Only, you know, that song. Again, you have wonderful music for people, even adults, to pick up on this thing. And the olive tree's got stories all by itself. You know, that it can be hollow in the inside and yet can still stand for years and years and years. There's all kinds of stories, though.
Yep. And you were reminding me when you said music. When I was in Omaha, I was in the cantorial choir, and we learned about 10 different songs for Tu B'Shvat. And of course, the only one I remember is the one I can't get out of my head. But yeah, there are 10 different songs I remember training and working on them and blah, blah, blah. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Art, what do you think?
I just was wondering if they celebrate Tu B'Shvat in Australia and New Zealand, where it's the height of summer.
Oh, good question. Oh, look, really cool question. So the answer is yes, if you're Jewish. But before I answer why do you think they would celebrate it there?
Well, I think is land of Israel based.
You got it. That's it right there. That's right. And they focus on Israel and the whole 9 yards. So absolutely. Now, if I lived in Australia and New Zealand and it was in the middle of their winter, and that which is our summer in the whole 9 yards, that would cause me some conflict. But yeah, I understand that. Now, would I write to my senators and representatives to change it? Probably not. But although, if I remember correctly, isn't the Prime Minister of New Zealand, who recently got reelected, isn't she Jewish, if I remember correctly?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So maybe she'll have some influence over that. I'm not quite sure. Nancy Martin, what do you think about Tu B'Shvat?
I always did environmental friendly things, so I'm right up there with it.
And Martin, what do you think?
I just know that in Australia they don't call it Tu B'Shvat; they call it Tu B'Shnat.
Yeah. You know what? He does deserve credit for that. Okay, he really does. I know you were barking up the wrong tree, but it was very successful. Ruth,
Throw a couple dates on the Barbie.
Ruth, what do you think?
I was just thinking, it's the one holiday, if you think about it, you can think about the meaning of it at different times in the year as you are doing environmental things. When Passover is over, it's over. When Hanukkah is over, it's over. But Tu B'Shvat has lingering meaning all year if you are really trying to help the world and repair the world in environmentally way. It's reminiscent of Tu B'Shvat the whole year when you do any of these things.
And I have to tell you that from this moment on, and I mean this very sincerely, Tu B'Shvat will always be in my memory as a turnaround. Why is a turnaround? Because I looked to my friend Greg Wiston. You see, Greg and I always had a deal that I would let him know 15 minutes before class that class was coming. And that's pretty cool. But no, what did Greg have to do this evening? He emailed me, as did Ruth. It's
Thank you,
class.
Greg and Ruth.
So, I apologize. I don't know what happened. I totally blew it off. Carolyn, thank you for calling me.
You're very welcome.
Like, wow.
I know you start promptly at 7, and at 7:02, I said something's going on.
I don't know what happened. I know what happened. I remember changing the day. I sent you all the new calendar. So this is what happened. Last night I said, do I have a class Tuesday? So I looked up the calendar, even though I sent you guys an email. I sent you an email, and I looked it up on the calendar. Said, oh no, the next class is February 1st. No problem. So I'm sitting in the back having lunch, dinner with Carol, and eating my dessert and all that kind of stuff. And
I was honestly confused because the sheet you sent doesn't have tonight.
Yeah, I know because
and I was like,
anyway. So I apologize. Thank you for your understanding. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. But I'll always remember that Greg reminded me, as well as Carolyn. But Greg stands out, Carolyn. No offense. And Ruth, I know you sent me an email too, so I appreciate that. All right. So, question next week. I do have all the documents prepared. Do you want to have that discussion with the facts about spirituality and success, et cetera, or I can do a whole bunch of others. I don't think we talked about King Solomon yet, and we did Proverbs yet, but there's a couple more I still have in the library. Are you interested in that one next week?
Which one?
The one where I suggested several times that factually, the more spiritual and religious a person is, the better life they live in nearly every measurement. And we're going to focus on wealth.
Haven't we done that before?
Yeah, but not on the wealth part, because I've got some new data. We talked about happiness, okay? And we threw a number. We did that at the beginning of the year. We threw a number in about happiness and how much money people make, but now there's more data. All right, it doesn't seem like it's one topic that we're all jumping into. So I will come up with another one, which I've got in my libraries, and I'll send them to you, and I will be there on time.
You better.
All right, yeah.
You better, Andy. I count on it. I count on your punctuality.
I know. First time I ruined it. Well, second time I ruined it.
Shavua Tov, everyone. Shavua Tov.
One second, Steve. I have an admission. So this goes back about 5 years ago. It was our second year of adult hip. The time just changed. Okay, it went from standard daylight savings time to regular time. Okay, so I'm driving to shul and it was dark because in those days we met live. I'm driving to shul and it was dark, and because it was dark, what did I do?
Went home.
No, I kept on driving about 3 miles past the shul. And I said to myself, where am I going? And I said, oh my God, I drove too far because it was no longer daylight savings time. But anyway, 2 times in 6 years. What am I getting?
And you stopped drinking before class?
Yeah. All right. Shavua Tov, everyone. Hey, I have an idea. Cantor, if you want to lead us in the verse of Tu Beshvat Higia, and we'll go out that way. So for the next 3 days, everyone's got to suffer with me.
Okay, the almond tree is growing. A glowing sun is glowing. The birds sing out in joyous glee from every tree and every tree. Tu Beshvat is here.
Chag ha'Ilanot. Tu Beshvat is here.
Tu Beshvat higia. Chag
ha'Ilanot. Tu Beshvat higia.
Dreidel. I made it out of play.
All right, everybody.
Bye now.
Good night. Thank you, Cantor.
Stay well, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.